You are listening to 600 Saga. Today's feature is The Door by Andrea Pusztai. A carriage rushed past me in the wide tunnel, then another. I blinked after them from under my hat. The horse hooves hammered deafeningly on the remains of the ancient Roman cobblestones, agitatedly as if they couldn't rest until it broke like a stubborn nutshell. Tip-tap-tap, tip-tap-tap. The rhythm of music. Music is good, lifelike, visceral. The wheels cut puddles in two with a splash. The water opened as fluttering butterfly wings. The light of carriage lamps fell bluntly on the dancing water, then disappeared in the distance alongside the horses with their backs steaming. The damp mist rubbed itself against the street. The horses turned into shadows, dissolved in the opalescent light of oil lamps, then crumbled into wavy stripes of haze as they disappeared out of sight. The door must be here, in the tunnel. I have to find it. I lit a cigarette and exhaled with satisfaction. I glimpsed something moving in the corner. The soft steps of a woman. "Hire easy company for tonight, good sir?" Her speech sounded cultivated, even if it issued from the lips of a whore. She came closer, carefully, the swaying silhouette of her body appearing in the gaping, misty mouth of the tunnel. She walked gracefully, like every coquette who wants to strike up a deal, her steps knocking gently on the stone. Her face was still invisible. Her figure swayed toward me. She was a pathologically ancient silhouette of a man's weakness. It was disturbing that this woman was here, this close to the door. "I'm not good company," I stated and took a puff of my cigarette. I would fancy her, but not the way she wants. I'd rather feed her to my birds. I'd grab her warm flesh so blood pumps in it until I allow it, and then never more. I could rule over her. "If you pay, sir, you can do anything. I know my trade. You wouldn't regret it," she promised, and was coming close, as though she believed we had made a deal. "Stay where you are," I snapped, stopping her at last. A moment of silence descended. The sounds of a faraway revel slithered into the empty tunnel like a treacherous snake. Water fell in front of me from the ceiling and landed in the middle of a wide puddle. The woman shuffled around impatiently, her shoe heels scratching the stones unsurely. Reminding myself I'd come to find something, I decided not to send her away. She might turn out to be useful. I reached into my pocket, and she, as though smelling money, got closer despite my warning. Her eyes glowed. The ember of cigarette burnt in them. I glimpsed a bit more of her charms. Her snow-white breasts revealed themselves to me, barely covered by anything. Such a woman is unworthy of me. I straightened up, as if she had no effect on me. A last inhale. I welcomed the cigarette smoke like a life-giving force. I flicked the stub. It went out with a sizzle in the puddle before our feet. But I wouldn't give to see blood spread like this, a blackened mirror. She thought I'd changed my mind and almost threw herself on me to search my trousers for a way to satisfy me. I waved her off. I didn't want her to touch me. "What do you wish, then?" she asked in a resigned voice, pulling her shawl together. I saw how vulnerable she was, her whole body begging for worthy salvation. "Give me news." "About what?" "That." I gestured toward the door where she'd appeared. "I don't know what you're talking about." She turned around to leave, and screamed as I reached after her, grabbing her by the neck. Her heels sliced the puddle in two. "A whore is much more talkative." I slammed her against the damp wall. Her feet kicked the air, looking for a foothold of mercy. I squeezed her throat. her eyes begging desperately to let go. She couldn't make a sound. I knew she knew something. Had seen him. The thought made me even gasp for air. I inhaled the lavender smell of her hair with a sensual pleasure and threw myself into her perturbed eyes to see her thoughts, to feel her fear. The door I was looking for guarded deep secrets. It was his home. It led to the home of my nemesis. But could a demon step into the antechamber of God? She came from him, not a coquette, but a soldier. I saw how big a warrior she was too late. I felt the knife blade in my side as she sliced into me with the last of her strength. Pain and hot, sticky blood ran down my side. I wiped away her saliva from my fine leather gloves with a lacy handkerchief. The body spread on the stone, steam rising in silence. I turned away and stepped to the door. My fingers reached out to the handle. But I changed my mind. This was too simple. I didn't want it this way. I hadn't been prepared to enter. I walked home on the riverbank. My marmadel birds perched on the stone rail, looking like sooty vultures. They turned toward me expectantly, staring at me with black eyes, asking about my victim. I motioned to them, and they took off screeching. Their wild wing beats disappeared into the echo of the tunnel. In a few minutes, only wet bones remained among torn rags. I lit another cigarette and looked at the water as it slithered toward the sea like a soft-bodied snake that shed patches of fog. I was so close to him. She stopped me. Now I know he is there. That is something. The enemy never runs away. It always waits for you. The sounds of fighting drifted toward me. My pets quarreled about the meat. They devoured her hair, her flesh, her fat. Broke a bone, maybe a rib. I sighed. They'll hunt me for this. But I wasn't the kind of demon who got jumpy from it. My hand found the wound. The sticky blood had stiffened my clothes. A scratch. I'll find some allies before I return and step through the door. By the time the marmadels soared out of the tunnel like a screeching cloud, I knew where I had to go. This was The Door by Andrea Pusztai. Andrea got her degree in philosophy from the University of Szeged, but her true passion is history. Her main focus is on the early Middle Ages, the historical interactions between Byzantium and Hungary, but she is also interested in plague epidemics, witch trials, and the roles and lives of women and religions throughout the course of history. She also writes fantasy, and when it comes to short stories, she enjoys venturing into sci-fi and more mystical topics. The Door was translated by Fanni Sütő. Music is provided by Mads. Learn more about 600 Saga, our authors, how to submit your flash fiction, and how to support the podcast in the show notes. This has been Mariah Avix and 600 Saga.